There are some memories that fade with time. And then there are the ones that set like a good pie cooling on the counter. This is one of those stories. Welcome to Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. I'm Brian Smith. In the late 1990s, I was in my prime, physically, metabolically, and gastronomically. I was a voracious eater, a competitive eater. I believed that dessert was not a course, it was a calling. In our family, appetite was inherited. My dad had one, my brothers, and I had an appetite that could clear a holiday buffet before grace was finished. And we all, every last Smith male, had a weakness for sweets. Which brings me to my mother. When I think of my mom, I don't just think of love. I think of butter, sugar. I think of ovens preheating and countertops dusted with flour. She loved to bake, especially at the holidays. She could take something plain and turn it into something memorable. And yes, she had a sweet tooth of her own, one that eventually contributed to diabetes and health struggles. But when she baked, she wasn't just cooking. She was remembering. In the 1940s, when homemade baking was king, her aunts and grandmothers didn't just own cookbooks, they were cookbooks. My mom's family on the Butterman and Fleming side, they had what I like to call master's degrees in baking, handed down one generation at a time. My dad, my brothers, and I were the lucky beneficiaries. And so when the holidays rolled around and I got a craving, not for store-bought, not for processed, but for real homemade pecan pie, I knew exactly who to call. And I didn't want one pie, I wanted several. This was not a casual request. This was a project. So I ordered deluxe pecans, shipped straight from Georgia. Top dollar. A 10-pound investment. And when I asked Mom if she could make the pies, she did not hesitate. She was enthusiastic, effusive, almost glowing. I knew she loved this kind of thing. When the box arrived, I made a special trip to her house. It was 20 miles, but it was worth it. Just to deliver my box of pecans. She reached out and took that box like it was a newborn grandchild. And she assured me that I would have my pies. But then, time passed. Every time I asked, there was a delay. She wasn't feeling well. She was busy. But always the same reassurance. They're coming. And with the holidays getting close, finally, after what seemed like weeks of anticipation and salivation, she called. The pies are done. I rushed over on my day off. And again, this was not a short drive. Finally, my mission was coming true. All the planning, ordering, paying, waiting, driving. And when I arrived at her house, she handed me 2 pies. Just 2. She said something that, in hindsight, should have raised every red flag imaginable. You can take these home and eat them later. Okay, why would I be suspicious? She had baked for me before, and these were supposed to be premium pies. Now, when I think of my mother, I don't just think of love or warmth. I think of the smell of baking drifting through our house. I think of butter melting before it hits the bowl. I think of recipes that were never written down because they didn't need to be. She loved to bake, especially during the holidays. She could take something ordinary and turn it into something that made you linger at the table just a little longer. And yes, she had a sweet tooth herself, one that eventually worked against her health. But when she baked, something else happened. Her childhood came back. She grew up in the 1940s when homemade baking was at its peak. Her aunts and grandmothers didn't just bake, they trained her as an apprentice. When I got home, I cut a generous slice. I sat down. First bite, Second bite, The texture was wrong. The flavor was creative. And then it hit me. This was a mock pecan pie, an imposter, a decoy, a culinary sleight of hand. What is this? Pretzels? Oatmeal? Disguised as pecans? And suddenly the truth became clear. This was a mock pecan pie, and it was mocking me. Did my mother really think she could fool a master eater? A connoisseur of sweets? You don't fool a Smith with filler. The next time I saw my mom, she could barely keep it together. She tried to hide her laughter. She could barely keep a straight face. She never actually confessed. She didn't have to. My brother Kyle finally spilled the truth. She had eaten the pecans. Not all at once, just a handful. Then another. Then a bowl. Until the 10-pound box was gone. Like the old man in the sea, the great prize reduced to nothing but a skeleton. The love of pecans, it turns out, is the root of all gluttony. And somehow she thought she could improvise. Classic mom. That's where the Smith is separated from the myth. How unhealthy is it to eat 10 pounds of pecans? And how unrealistic is it to expect flawless pies after weeks of anticipation? Well, it took me a while to get my trust back. But in her final years, she made it right, holiday after holiday. Desserts made with care, love, and later, actual pecans. She passed away in January of 2005, and the holidays haven't been the same since. Every time I eat pecan pie now, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'm right back with the great mock pecan pie debate. The waiting, the hope, the betrayal. What separates the Smith from the myth is that I was once mocked by a pecan pie. But I survived. My mother was a master baker. Sometimes she was a master comedian, but she was a loving woman and apparently a gifted illusionist. And if I'm being honest, I'm a lot like her. After all, the pecan doesn't fall far from the tree, and I lived to eat again. This has been Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. My name is Brian Smith. Thank you for having a bite with me today.